Story-driven video games have two ways of telling their story. Firstly, where you play as a pre-made character and follow them on their journey interacting with the world and its characters, following a mostly linear path to the climactic moment at the end of the game. These types of video games have side adventures you can do, but they do not alter or make a massive impact on the final moment of the game. And these types of games include most of the Final Fantasy series, The Witcher 3, Honkai Impact the Third, and in general, just single-player games. These games give you a character that has history with the world they are in. They are known and have a certain personality like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII or Geralt from The Witcher. This type of game can be compared to watching an interactive movie. You're watching the story unfold before your eyes, with the player only contributing to the gameplay portion. The characters of these games have their own personality and voice, and remember this point. On the other hand, you have games where you either create your own character or are given a blank slate of a character with no depth to partake in a very open-ended journey where you know there is a linear path to the final moment, but taking the side routes can lead to the final moment being enhanced in some way or another. Games like this include The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, and in general both single-player and multiplayer games that have a certain amount of character customization. In this type of game, you are not known, you have no history in the world, you are a random prisoner on a carriage about to be executed like in Skyrim, or you are a random corpse revived and made tarnished like in Elden Ring. You, the player, are the character in this type of game. Your own choices will determine where this story goes. You control both the story and the gameplay. The characters of these types of games don't have a personality or a voice because you, the player, are the personality and the voice. Now you will notice I haven't put Genshin Impact in either of these categories, and that is because Genshin does things from both of these categories almost equally. Genshin Impact gives you a pre-made character, which is the Traveler or Aether and Lumine. You can choose a gender, but you have zero customizability outside of that, and knowing this, I would place Genshin safely in the first category. But Aether and Lumine have no story, no background, no history. They are not known, and this would take them out of the first category. Now, the Traveler does have a voice, and they do have their own personality, and with this, they would go back into the first category. But the Traveler uses their voice and shows their personality extremely rarely, and the moments they are used can be as short as 1 to 5 words, or at most a few sentences. And with this, that would take them back out of the first category. You as the player are given dialogue options in Genshin Impact when interacting with the world and its characters, and this as a concept would put Genshin into the second category. But again, it would be taken out of this category because your choices don't matter and have zero impact on the world and the events that occur. Genshin Impact has done a remarkable job at mixing both of these categories and found itself not fitting into either of them. The player can't connect to other characters via proxy of the Traveler because the Traveler is an empty husk. Conversely, the player can't experience a well-made and in-depth story because anytime the Traveler is prompted to do anything, the player has to make a weightless choice. The Traveler was designed as a main character in an in-depth story the player could play through and experience, but the addition of weightless dialogue options and the near-absent use of the voice of the Traveler completely opposes this design. If we take a moment to compare and contrast this design to Honkai Impact 3rd, Honkai establishes the main cast of characters Kiana, Mei, and Bronya, and introduces them and shows their personality within the first 15 to 30 minutes of gameplay, each having their own voice and distinct personality. And with that, that's 1 point to category 1. As you move from stage to stage, you are watching a story unfold, where your only input as the player is gameplay. You, the player, are essentially watching an interactive movie where you can only move the characters from event 1 to event 2 to event 3 and so on, having no input on the outcome of the events. And that's 2 points to category 1 now. Even though you as the player are regarded as the quote-unquote captain, that is the extent of the customization. There is no character customizer, there is nothing in the game hinting at the idea that you, the player, may be involved in this story. You are just known as the captain, while Kiana, Mei, and Bronya are the actual main characters. And with that, that is 3 points to category 1. Honkai Impact fits perfectly into category 1 alongside games like The Witcher 3 or Final Fantasy VII, while Genshin Impact floats in the void between the two, not giving the player either the ability to make impactful choices that can change certain outcomes, or the option to experience a fully voiced and pre-made story that flows smoothly from scene to scene. There are plenty of examples where choosing either of the two dialogue options presented to the player will lead to the same result, even though the two options can be completely different. There are even more examples, though, of a conversation going smoothly between characters followed by a random moment of silence, and this moment can be one of two things. Firstly, an unvoiced inner monologue of the traveler, where nothing is said and you have to manually read an inner monologue. Or secondly, a weightless dialogue choice that either leads to Paimon just repeating what you said but slightly altered, or a character immediately replying without the traveler actually saying a word. It saddens me to admit, but Genshin's storytelling pales in comparison to Honkai's. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.